Okay, the Midweek Howl is now recording with Shane Grove and the Ozark Howler. How about that? It's an official introduction. What do you think, Howler? You like it or not?
I can't decide.
You can't decide. Well, sometimes I feel like, the people that aren't real diehard fans, they don't get it sometimes. It takes them a little bit. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah, how do you think there's a percentage that just listens for 5 minutes and hangs up? I do that all the time. I try a new podcast. I listen to it 5 or 10 minutes and half of my dump.
Yes, they do, because I do see the numbers, and there are for us, for me and you. Maybe it's just mainly for me. They stop listening after like 7 minutes. On the regular podcast, Friday they'll listen to like 26 to 30 minutes more. So
I wish you wouldn't have told me that.
Well, it's not everybody. It's just there's certain people that do, and it's just like you said. I mean, you just said you did it to somebody.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I do it to myself. Maybe that's when I get tired of doing it. Maybe I get tired about 7 minutes, so they know what's going on. Maybe that's what it is. And maybe people listen to us and are like, "Well, these guys aren't talking about anything," and we're 7 minutes in. I'm getting out. I mean, I there's so much. I have so many questions, right? Like in life, I have so many questions. I had a Twitter interaction with a gentleman and mentioned the podcast, and I thought this is what he said. Yeah, hit me up, DM me. So I DM'd him, and I told him to listen to a few episodes. We might not be for you. So I described what the weekly show is, what your show is, our show here, and I told him right off the bat that my producer's a little left of center, so he's kind of borderline liberal, and so I only put that on there is so he quit. He never DM'd me back and said, "Yes, I'm ready to talk." Right now, I did tell him we had Joey Knuckles on. So this guy's a Marine, and he's a rare breed of a Marine infantry officer.
Okay.
So he might be the first Marine infantry officer I ever interacted with. I knew a lot of pilots, and they were all officers, Harrier pilots and Cobra pilots. But when he 0302, I thought a real honest to God infantry officer. So if he's very good, and he probably still is, because I'm assuming he's retired and working in the contract arena. He might be too straight laced. He might be, some of those guys are too, I don't want to say uptight, but certainly they take the world serious, right? And the comment that I commented on when I sparked an interaction, he actually called me Bud a week ago on a thing, which endeared me to him. He tried to set me, I commented something on a Civil War type post that he had put, and he called me Bud, B-U-D, to put me up. You know what I mean? Remember 30 years ago when you called me Bud? You know what I mean?
Well, the funny thing is I have an Uncle Bud, and I had two Uncle Buds because one has passed away. So when you say Bud, it means it's a whole different
thing.
It's
a term of endearment with you.
Yeah.
Okay, now he didn't say that. I got a friend of mine that's exactly 10 years and 2 weeks older than me, and when he says Bud, he's about to smack you in the head.
See, I don't get that. I don't get that.
I took this gentleman to be inferring that over Twitter, which immediately endeared me to him. Okay.
That he was going to smack you in the head?
Yes, because Twitter? That's a rare. Hey, let me tell you, the topic, he was on two different topics, Civil War and immigration. Basically, the thing, he said, hey, they keep calling America the melting pot, and we traditionally haven't been the melting pot. We've been a stew. Yeah, we're in the same pot, but the carrots are over there. The potatoes are over there. The corn's over there. The meat's over here. But we don't all blend in to make a big goo.
Well, that's what quit trying to make us.
So quit. No, hold on a second. Stew doesn't turn into porridge.
Yeah, but it's all together.
It's in the same pot, but it's discernible, and that's why I wanted to warn him, because see, your liberal tendencies coming out. which I
For
explained
God's
to
sake, we're talking about a
because-
bowl of soup
because
here. I mean, come
but
on.
because you swim in the creative circles, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you swim with the Nashville songwriters and the Hollywood movie people, you know, you tend to see things through rose-colored glasses. And I wanted to warn him because
You wanted to warn him that I'm a decent person?
I don't. He might not. He hasn't developed the relationship that you and I. Because see, I forgive you for being left of center, right? I forgive you for that. I realize that not everybody's perfect. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
So anyway,
we've had this discussion before that I am probably more conservative than you, the judge, and the God rest his soul, the super producer was, who claimed to be conservatives. I'm probably way more conservative than all of you.
Are you talking financially or?
I'm talking everything.
Okay, so
I'm talking everything.
hold on a second. I think you live your life along very conservative principles. Okay.
Yeah.
Your actions, not your words, your actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you got to talk like that?
What I got to talk
That's
like
what
what?
I'm saying. So why do you got to talk like that? Right? You're like the opposite. You're like the opposite of some. I know some people that espouse, especially around church circles, espouse to be all this in a bag of chips, and they're not. So my question is, why do you espouse your liberal ideas yet you live a very pious conservative life? Because you really think, hold on a second, I think it's because you really think mankind, you see the good in strangers and mankind.
Well, I did. Well,
the idea of liberalism, the idea of live and let live type stuff.
Well, to a certain degree, I don't have the prejudices that a lot of people seem to have, and you, for whatever reason, okay, and it's like this whole let's take the whole Bud Light thing and then putting a transgender person on the can of Bud Light, okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
If certain pseudo celebrities didn't shoot up a case of Bud Light with a gun, okay, or come out and vehemently oppose it, 99.9% of America wouldn't even know they had put a transgender person on a can of Bud Light. Okay. So what I see is a couple people trying to stir up some other people, some so-called followers, because they really don't have any other soapbox to get on at the moment, and try to create a controversy where there really isn't a controversy, because most of the people don't even know it's going on. They just don't. Okay, people are too worried about going to work, getting the laundry done, getting the yard mowed. Do we got enough food to eat? Am I going to get to, did I call my parents this week? Is the car going to start? And that's really what you should be concentrating on. But people like that take advantage of prejudices in other people and get them stirred up so they can seemingly seem relevant. And it's just nonsense to me. It just really is.
You don't think it's because they're tired of having transgender ideology stuck on them and their children?
How do
we get on us? How are we?
Well, I'm just asking. How does a company, a privately owned company,
it's not privately, it's publicly traded.
But okay,
go ahead.
It's publicly traded. But so, do you have a say? Are you in the board of directors if you own shares of?
But hold on a second. Keep finished so I can jump on you here. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, whether they're privately traded or privately owned is, and I'm using air quotes, or publicly traded, there's still a board of directors that run the company. Okay?
That's correct.
No matter how many shares, you'd have to own an awful lot of shares to have a say in a company that was worth $153 billion.
Right.
Okay. So that is neither here nor there, whether it's publicly traded or not. We're still not having a say in what, but they can pretty much do whatever they want within the guidelines of how they want to run their company.
Sure.
And those cans weren't even being sent to Walmart to be sold. Okay. Those cans were only shipped straight to bars that were going to they were going to sell them right there on the premises. They weren't you couldn't go buy a case and take it home and have your 7-year-old sit there and say, "Hey, Daddy, who's this person on the can of Bud Light?" Okay. If your kid was affected by that can of Bud Light, guess what? You had your kid at a bar drinking when they weren't old enough to be drinking. Okay. So the whole premise that because a company put a transgender, and quite frankly, I wouldn't even known it was a transgender. I think we covered that topic last week when the super producer was in Japan and didn't know the women hitting on him.
Now hold on a second. I seen a tranny today at the veterinarian. And I was telling a friend of mine the story this morning. They said, "Have you seen a tranny at the veterinarian?" I said, "Yeah, it's kind of weird. Not really weird, but yeah, 30 years ago when I was a kid, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, certainly when I worked down here, this was a black transvestite, and you wouldn't see black people down here too much, and you didn't see transvestites, and now you happen to see both in one." But to Jason's defense, the transvestites in the Far East, specifically the Pan-Pacific ones, look a lot different than your average one in Oakland. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. So
but back to what I was saying is there's probably 0% chance of anybody knowing anything about a Bud Light can and having a transgender person on it, and it certainly wasn't going to affect your kid. Okay, because if your kid, number one, has a can of Bud Light in their hand, then you're failing as a parent. Okay. In and of itself, and the least of your problem should be who Bud Light is using as a spokesperson. So while yes, I don't think certain things should be rammed down people's throats. Okay, I also see the reverse side of that. There are certain aspects of the population that have been had the other majority's thoughts and beliefs rammed down their throats for 80 or 100 years or however long we're going to talk about it. And it's just, and nobody wants to consider that, and that's the problem I have is, have your beliefs, but also consider other people's feelings and stuff. And then don't get all upset when, they have 5 seconds of being in the spotlight. Okay. Because you had plenty of time to be in the spotlight, and the more people make a big deal about it to serve themselves, that's where the controversy comes from, because most people wouldn't even hear about it, wouldn't even know about it. Doesn't affect their everyday lives. So there you go. If anybody lasted longer than 7 minutes, so my conservative view is that you take care of yourself. Quit worrying about so many other people and what they're doing. Okay, it's in my mind, it's a more conservative view to take care of your own family, your own stuff, and quit projecting your feelings onto other people and your thoughts and prejudice on other people. That to me is being conservative, and that doesn't seem to be what goes on. Okay, so tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know. Is there a wrong answer in this?
I don't know. I mean, and I'm not trying to tell everybody that's how they should live. Okay, I'm just saying that's how I look at things. And if people don't care, why? And I don't expect anybody to care about it. But I do say that my so-called conservative friends, they really bothers them that I don't vote the same way they do. And I don't understand it. And they're the ones that always bring it up. And it's like, why does it bother them so much? So, oh.
Maybe they want you to go to heaven with them.
Oh, gosh.
You're so much time. Maybe Jason's up there waiting. He's actually, he's lonely because he knows you're going to hell with those attitudes. You think that's what it is?
Listen, let's mention. So you of course you don't live here with us. You live. I
do not. No, I do not. That's right. So, I live out here. I'm living with a bunch of strangers because they're moving in by the truckloads. but for now, yes, I do live essentially by myself. With the 3 dogs or 2 dogs. I was going to say 3 kids, but my one kid is gone. But anyway, I live down here in the woods. You hear the dog barking in the background. Some strangers probably hear.
So we all hopped in a car. Me and the judge, Phil the producer, Phil Garrett, who does produce the show now, and in the super famous, I think the judge called him properly, one of the greatest actors of our generation, Chris Hahn.
Absolutely, one of the smartest.
One of the smartest.
Most unique individuals that I love. He's paid me a great compliment on this trip. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, he did. So we hop in the Suburban, and we're talking about Jason. It's about an hour and a half drive or whatever. It was kind of a melancholy trip, and but we were telling good, some good stories still, and talking a lot about some movies that Phil and his company are working on and whatever. And so we get to this, and Malvern is. I always tease Jason. I did not realize that he was actually from an Amish town. Okay, and
how could you look at him and not think that beard, think he was Amish?
I know.
He paid homage to his people.
So he really did. He did. He had an Amish beard, basically, where they shaved the mustache, and it's just the beard.
I think it means something, but go ahead.
I don't know. So we get to the church, and it's this small country church on the edge of town, and we kind of walk in and kind of figure out what's going on, and we're all kind of standing, and there's no missing Chris. Okay, Chris is big, bald-headed, loudest guy. He has bad hearing from wrestling.
You know who he reminds me of all the time? Jesse Ventura, a younger Jesse Ventura, doesn't he?
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. So he talks real loud, so everybody knows. Well, so people who we've met, none of these people except for Jason's wife is the only person any of us have ever met is Jason's wife. And they start making their way back to us because we're just trying to kind of hide out in the back of this church.
Because y'all are the only white guys, or how'd they know you were from the show?
Because we were with Chris, I think. And I think everybody really knew who Chris was, Because
he's been in 150 movies, right?
Yeah.
Literally, how many has he been in?
I don't know. Maybe not 150, but he's been in quite a few. And so people start coming back. And so it's me and the judge and Chris all standing there, and everybody, and Phil is standing behind us. And so everybody starts coming up, and they go, who? And now keep in mind, they've heard our show. They've already heard us do our memoriam show.
Yeah, that's right.
It's Jason. Right. Mm-hmm. And so they all want to know. They all go, "You must be the judge to the judge," because he
looks like a lawyer. I know.
Looks like a judge.
It looks like a judge.
Looks like a judge, and then they all go, "So which one of you guys is the Howler? Which one of you guys is the Howler?" And they're all looking at Phil, and they're looking at me, and they're like, "Well, he's not here. He's not here." The only thing that would have disappointed these people more would have been if Jason's body hadn't showed up for the funeral. Everybody was like, "We want to meet the Howler." Not a single person said, "Well, then you must be Shane. You must be Shane." Not a single person cared. Not a single person asked. if I was even there. They didn't even care. It was all about the judge and the howler. And I'm like, well, that pretty much sums it up right there. Now I know what people are only listening for 7 minutes.
Hurry in during Ram Truck Month and discover what it truly means to drive a truck that's built to serve. Ram 3500 with an available legendary Cummins engine. Ram TRX, the most horsepower of any gas pickup ever built. And Ram 1500, ranked #1 in driver appeal among large light-duty pickups in 2022. That's 3 years in a row by J.D. Power. Hurry in during Ram Truck Month. For J.D. Power 2022 U.S. award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Take as little as 3 minutes to see if you could save on motorcycle insurance with Progressive. Come on, you've spent more time than that debating your accessories.
Could use some new riding gloves. Guess I'll go with black leather again. Just seems so basic. Wait, what if I did white leather? People be like, hey, this guy's different. Or they might be like, hey, this guy looks like a butler. Yeah, okay, black leather it is.
Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
So that was interesting that everybody, they were so touched by the show we did, but they were all huge fans of the Howler because they always listened and they were just so disappointed. So what do we got to do to get him here? I don't know.
Well, now for full disclaimer, I had to have my son deployed. When was this funeral? Thursday.
Friday.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
son deployed at 1:35 Friday morning. I was with him Thursday night, and I picked him up over there at Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek in Virginia Beach, Norfolk. I took him on, went out to eat, got ice cream, hung out, checked his stuff in. People that fly these kind of things know what they're doing. Know what I'm talking about. And then I had to bring him back and just drop him off. He had a one-way ticket. And I was bringing his car back to Missouri because he's going to be gone for 3 years. He's going to AFRICOM and Eurocom there. So I brought his car back to Missouri so I can. I'm going to fix his windshield and do a couple things for it and ship it. They're going to ship it over. He's in a position on the north side of the Mediterranean where he'll get to have a car. He's got car privileges. So I was taking care of him. Otherwise, I'd have been there right there with you to greet them. Them. I'm really upset. Hopefully somebody won't have to die for me to get out there. I don't know.
Well, you already said you can't make the wedding. So I don't know what else. I don't know what else to do.
I'm just gonna have to come out there. I'm just gonna have to. I'm just gonna have to come out there. I don't know. Yeah, I
got a wedding and a funeral, and that neither one of them did it. So I don't know what to.
Well, yeah, that's right. It sounds like a show, doesn't it? Maybe we should.
Yeah, it was like wasn't that a Hugh Grant movie? Like 3 weddings.
I think it was 2, 3. Yeah, 3.
3 weddings and a funeral.
What were we supposed to talk about tonight? See, that's the problem. We go off. We are off the rails now.
Well, I do. Okay. So I do want to. Okay. So at this point, if anybody from Jason's family is listening to this episode, stop listening for a second, because I want to say I wanted to share something with you that happened at the funeral that was kind of strange. So the hearse pulls right up in front of the church. Okay.
As hearses are known to do.
But this is a steep, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 steps up into this church. Okay.
Old church or new church? Why would they have stairs that cheap? Okay.
Steep. I mean, they're steep. The stairs went right down to basically the road. Okay. Because it was right there on the little road. And I'm telling you, that casket was
heavy.
So it was me, the judge, Phil, Chris, Jason's nephew, and another friend lifting this cat. I mean, it was heavy. Okay. And it never, I didn't think anything of it. We lift it, we get it up there. Okay. But when we took him out of the church, to take him to the cemetery.
It's harder to go downhill.
We had to go downhill. And not only did we go downhill, but so I was at where his head was going down first. I'm thinking he slid forward in the casket and hit his head.
You could like feel it? You think you could feel him?
Me and the judge looked at each other like, did that just happen? Like, well, we're like, did we? Because, I mean, we're going down steep. I mean, the thing is almost like at a 45-degree angle, like up in the cat. I mean, it was, and I just looked at, we got done and we get back in the Suburban. I looked at the judge. I go, did he slide forward in that casket? And the judge is like, I think he did. I'm like, I go, is that wrong? Is that normal? And we didn't know what to think about. We said, like, sorry, man. We didn't mean to.
I mean, they don't think about it. They don't tack them down or nothing. You know, like, they don't.
They didn't zip tie him. Or
yeah, that's what I mean. They don't.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
all I could think
I can imagine. Of course, it was an aluminum casket, wasn't it? Like a.
Oh, it felt like it was granite. I mean,
like
it was so heavy.
Well, I don't know. I know, and he was a big man, so I can only imagine because my brother wasn't near that big. I mean, my brother weighed about 175, and it was the heaviest damn thing I carried on that hillside.
Oh, I mean, and Jason's probably every bit of 210 or something. Yeah.
Maybe it's just the weight of not only physically but metaphorically the weight of you know what I'm saying?
The weight of the man we were carrying.
Yeah. Does it add more to it? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, but I will tell you this: like it was a lot of gospel songs that were being sung by the a lot of amen and hallelujah, which was super
I'm telling you,
interesting.
I'm telling you, I'm getting misty-eyed right now, and I'm serious, you know.
And the pastor allowed open mic. Anybody?
Black guy or white guy?
Black guy.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Wanted anybody wanted to come up and say anything, and of course Chris stood up
mic
from the back of the church and goes, "Hey, I don't need a mic. I'm loud enough as it is." And he said some nice things about Jason, and Jason's nephew said some stuff. A guy he worked with at the prison, and then this small, slightly built, Asian looking. I mean. He looked Asian, you know. I mean, I don't know if he's Japanese.
You can say that. It's our podcast. I mean, a lot of the listeners know what an Asian looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we got into this. That's funny. We got into that discussion if saying Oriental or Asian is wrong. Is it?
I was going to say, and not to take away from you, I want you at the close of this podcast, bring me back to my Asian looking story. So, but go ahead.
So this guy got up there, and he had worked with Jason at the Ford Motor Company. Jason hadn't worked at the Ford Motor Company since 2006, so it's been a long time. And this guy then started talking about he worked beside Jason, and he essentially became his sensei.
That was what I said the other day when you were telling me a story. His sensei, he was teaching Jason. I was going to say acrobatics, but
acrobat. No.
Kung Fu or whatever. I'm not a martial arts guy.
He was teaching him martial arts, and he's telling the story. And like Chris looks back at me, the judge looks at me, and we're like, "What? Jason was in the martial arts?" And he proceeded to talk about how, Jason was really into it and studied it, was inquisitive and wanted to learn different styles, and went on to where he, when he went to get married in Japan to his wife, he wore a samurai robe, which this guy alluded to was really impressive because by Jason doing that, it showed that he really understood and appreciated
and respected, right?
Yeah, and respected. And, and the guy's like, and I'd lost touch with Jason and I hadn't talked. So this guy made a 2.5 hour trip from the Toledo area to this funeral for somebody that he hadn't seen in years, probably a decade or even longer. And, it was just the kind of impression Jason made on. But so that was kind of cool. But then when we all get in the car, we're all like, did you know Jason was into martial arts? And nobody knew that. And Chris had known him longer than any of us, worked out with him, trained with him with Mickey Skidova, who Mickey, we all know, was once the American kickboxing champion. Like the one man that Chuck Norris as he announced as one of his fights said, he's the one man I wouldn't want to fight. Mickey Skidova.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't bring me to some Chuck Norris stories, but go ahead.
I'm writing down Chuck Norris. But it was just such a weird revelation. Like, again, we're learning something about a guy we were good friends with that none of us knew. He never mentioned, anything about being into martial arts. So it's just kind of like, and I think, we all kind of looked at each other like, well, what are we going to find out about each other when one of us goes first, I can't.
Well, go ahead.
There's not much me and the judge, don't know about each other. We've known each other since we were 6. So, unless he did something when he was 3 or 4 that is going to shatter my belief system, I don't know.
Well, I think and I think this topic come up. This is why, from now on, it's a sign of respect. I'm going to call Chris Hahn Hooper. When Hooper said, mentioned that he thought I might have been black, and I said that that's the best compliment somebody's paid me in a long time. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. When you were telling me the sensei story, because he never mentioned martial arts to me. I mean, think about all the truck driving stories we heard, prison stories we heard. We heard stories about all kinds of stuff, but I never heard a martial arts story.
No, nothing. And that's a big part of your life when you're in it.
Maybe, but they say the real badasses don't have to. Yeah, exactly, which is what I started to say that dovetail into my Chuck Norris story that I won't tell. It's not my Chuck Norris story. I drove after 9/11. There were some things that happened where I had the privilege of driving a couple of retired Delta Force members, and I mean no shit Delta Force, not Mickey Mouse, and they had worked on the Chuck Norris Delta Force movie, in the early 80s as young junior enlisted guys. And as old timers, if you met these guys, you would, you'd think they were the mailman or something. They just absolutely did not talk about it, did not project anything. They didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying.
So maybe maybe Jason fully subscribed to the badass philosophy, and even though he went through the training or whatever I'm not into martial. I'm going to tell you I got a bunch of honest disclosures here. I'm not a black guy. I did the minimum, the absolute minimum fight training I've had to do for some of my jobs. I'm just not into any of that. Okay. So, so I don't know how you know what I mean? I don't know how the discipline it takes to do that sort of stuff. Right. So.
Well, it's like the young guy is our postmaster. His famous saying is, don't talk about it, be about it. So there you go. Just be about it. You don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. That's right. Huh. Interesting. That's a great way to put it. Huh.
Yeah. But I was mentioning to you, so when we were, so Chris and I rode home together because the judge had to ride home with somebody else. And so Chris was telling me yesterday, while we're recording it, so it was this Sunday, so it was last Sunday, they were having like a pop culture show, like a mini Comic-Con or whatever, but it's like a pop in a small town in Ohio. Like I can't even believe they were having it there.
Right.
And he was one of the people. 3 of the guys from The Sandlot were there. The movie.
That's an old movie. Yeah. That's going back a ways now.
The guy who played Jason Voorhees in the first Friday the 13th, but he was Jason Voorhees as the kid, because spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen Friday, the Jason Voorhees in the hockey mask was the mom. So the kid was like in 2 scenes. Like, and I think one of them is where he.
The mom. Is that what you just said?
in the first Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, the character in the hockey mask, is actually the mom.
So that's like a tranny in the movie Pre-Tranny.
Well, but
anyway, go ahead. Finish.
She's not trying to be.
Finish. I'm jacking with you. I'm jacking with you now.
She's just a killer.
I don't care. I don't care. He's just a killer, right? If you're in a hockey mask killing folks,
yeah,
you do not. You can subscribe to whatever you want.
There you go. So the kid is now a man. Okay, that was a guest there. One of the other guests was a young actor who played the child, I think, in The Mandalorian, in the first couple episodes of The Mandalorian. So Chris is there. He's got, it's basically just you're going to see people who are pop culture icons or stars or, and I don't know that any of these people, you call them stars, but people that have cult followings. There's cult followings of Friday the 13th. There's, people love The Sandlot, and it gives you a chance to go and get autographs and take pictures and stuff like that. And Chris was telling me today then, so the three kids from The Sandlot, it was Squints, Yeah, and Smalls. Okay. So these guys had a table and they had a picture of the three of them that they were selling for $100. And then you could get each one of them to autograph it for $40 a person. And Chris said they had a line at their table of 10, 20 people deep the whole 5 or 6 hours of this show, buying that essentially $200 and what would that be? $220 photograph, the autograph photograph. He goes, I can't even imagine how many they sold. He said the kid with the Mandalorian, that was in the Mandalorian, had a line from sale selling autograph pictures. He said the Jason Voorhees guy. He goes, this was the one that just was crazy. He goes, how big do you think that guy is? And I just said, I don't know, 5'6". And he goes, yeah, he's 5'6". So the little kid who would grow up to be, in theory, this killer in a hockey mask really only ended up being 5'6" in real life. But he sat there and sold autographed pictures of him as a kid in Friday the 13th for $85 a pop. He told Chris that the day before he had been a show in Michigan and made $5,200 and was going to make $4,500 that last Sunday. So for a weekend, essentially $10,000 selling autographed pictures of himself in a movie he appeared in 2 scenes as a little kid. And I go, Chris, we're doing something wrong.
God bless him. I hope, under the new current administration, he'll probably have to be hounded by the IRS. But, yeah, good for him.
So Chris, I said, we just got to come up with one movie that we can all be in and have an iconic part. Just
I don't know.
But Chris said he sold a fair amount of pictures and DVDs from his different movies and got a lot of compliments about, Death Block 13 and stuff. So there you go, man. I don't know. We'll see at Monster Fest if people come and want to pay for our autographs.
I'll do autographs for free.
I don't. Well, there you go. See, there you go.
The privilege. Didn't you ever read about Larry Hagman giving out those like $100 bills with his picture on it?
No. What did Larry?
He had, I guess, back in the Dallas days, right? He got so hounded by autographs. I guess he felt so bad he couldn't. You know what I mean? In airports, on the street, everywhere, he would get hounded for autographs. So he went out, and I think it was $100 bills. Let me Google it up here. So he went and got his picture. I'm looking at one right here. It's the United States of America. No, it says non-negotiable right across the top. So I guess in case some, oh, it's on eBay. We can buy it.
We can buy a Larry Hagman $100 bill.
Yes. So it's imagine a $100 bill. It's got Larry Hagman, of course, as J.R. Ewing on the middle of it. And over there on the, you know how to the left of it where it would say like minted in or printed in St. Louis or Federal Reserve in Chicago or Cleveland or whatever, it says LH. I'm looking at it. And it's got his signature in red. What I had read is he had these things printed up, and I don't know if the signature is printed on there, you know what I mean? Or if he actually signed a stack of them. And then, of course, the back, it's got a cow, and it's got you just got to have to look up Larry Hagman.
Oh, I'm looking at it right
Are you
now.
looking at it right?
It's got
Signed bill. Okay. So, and he would have a stack of them in his pocket, and when people would get around it, that way he could just hand them to them.
This one is not signed, though. This one looks like $1, like it's got that.
See, yeah, I'm looking at one right here that's signed for $99.
Really? This is one that's not signed for $9.99. Huh. I might have to. So maybe we need to get some Ozark Howler $100 bills. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Maybe make it a $2, $3 bill. I think it needs to be a $3 bill.
Oh, here's a Larry Hagman $10,000 banknote, $30 with an autograph. It's autographed. It's a $10,000 banknote. How about that?
Well, that's worth at least $10.
Too bad they're asking 30.
Well, there you go.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
At Kroger, we want our fresh produce to meet your expectations, which is why we're dedicated to doing up to a 27-point inspection on our fruits and veggies, checking for things like scarring. In fact, only the best produce like zesty oranges and crisp carrots reach our shelves. Because when it comes to fresh, our higher standards mean fresher produce. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More, Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.